Halfway to Dallas, driving in a borrowed car, something, I can't say what exactly, told me to turn around and go home to a small house on the highway just north of Terrell, Texas. 19 years old and cashier at Safeway grocery store, I was staying with my parents to save money. I didn't get to Dallas that night. The house was empty when I got home, so I sat in the kitchen, tired, bored, sipping on coffee and a menthol cigarette at a big kitchen table held up by black metal legs. The kitchen was still new to me since it wasn't long since my parents' latest move. I liked the look of the dark green blown glass vase set with seashells that was a favorite of my mother's. Scattered around were my stepdad's metal and wood projects in various stages of perfection, the carved gun stock, leather straps and tack, and a clock in the midst of repair. I was soaking in the peaceful, quiet, kind of familiar and kind of different atmosphere, and taking in how the cabinets were too shallow for plates and the stove wasn't shallow at all. Then the back door banged open so hard it slammed against the wall, and a neighbor I'd met, 50-something-year-old Tom, stood there all bloody and flushed. "Mary, call the policeman and ambulance," said Tom, "and get me a cigarette. Somebody just tried to kill me." Tom was a chemist man. "You'll have to smoke menthol," I said. There was no 911 in those days, just a frantic call for me to the operator, dial O, and my tongue directions for her to get to the ambulance and sheriff. Come to the White House, past the White House, past the Pink House, past the Red House, next to the cemetery on the north side of town, I said, or something like that. It was enough, I guess. Since I didn't know the address, that's all I had. Tom was pacing and dripping blood all over the place. He had a bullet bulging out the side of his neck, and skin between his thumb and forefinger was torn and ragged. He said he thought he'd been shot in the chest. I told him to lie down on the old couch the dog slept on. I tore the front of his t-shirt open, and I didn't see any bullet holes, so I told him he was okay. At the time, I didn't know that a bullet through a nipple really didn't show up. "What happened?" I asked, as if nothing did. "I walked into my house carrying some groceries, and someone came out of my bedroom and shot me," Tom said. I pictured old Tom with 2 paper grocery sacks and a surprised look. Tom said he didn't know the shooter. He said he pulled out his own gun and tried to shoot back, but his gun misfired, so he ran down to our house. He had to climb a couple of fences at the pig lady's house. He said he thought the man followed him because he heard him going over the fences behind him, but he didn't stop to look. The baying of the hounds behind our house and the neighing of horses made me think he was right about being followed. Sirens blared and Sheriff Modine Sanders and an ambulance pulled up outside. I had convinced Tom that he didn't get shot in the chest and that the groceries probably stopped the bullet, that he just felt an impact. But when the paramedics picked him up, the rest of his t-shirt fell off and there was a hole in his back. Modine got a statement from Tom and then left me there, just north of town, with the dogs and horses still tracking the gunman. As he drove off, he said he wasn't going to look for the man alone. When Tom was loaded into the ambulance, he told me to get a gun and shoot anything that moved. It became quiet, too quiet. I focused on the floor that had to be cleaned up before my mom and Becky and Ron got home. So I took towels and swabbed the floor, rinsed them in a tub full of water, and did that several times till you couldn't even tell somebody had been bleeding all over the place. The drain gurgled when I pulled the plug, and I watched the tub of blood disappear. It was really, really red. It was kind of hectic when I finally got in touch with my mom. She drove home from friend Shirley's house, and we tumbled steps back and forth from the house to the car, loaded down with arms full of Civil War guns and locked the keys in the house. The unhunted man may have run off by then, perhaps scared by the sirens and animals, or maybe he saw us with all those guns. Later I learned someone had ordered a hit on Tom, who by the way had invented the change maker on a Coca-Cola machine. That's all that happened. I don't know why really that I turned around from that trip to Dallas that night. You might say I have good instincts, or maybe, just maybe someone was looking out for Tom that